My mom told me not to talk to strangers on the internet, but I'm glad I didn't listen. We are the Certified Noonas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessie.
I'm Natalia.
And I'm Sky.
Today, we are venturing into the world of a deep dive, but for two actors. We're getting a 2-for-1, guys. And those are the Japanese actors. And I'm hoping that I'm getting these names correctly. Machida Keita and Akaso Eiji. So if you're wondering, like, oh, these names sound vaguely familiar, why do I know them? There was this little show that aired about 2 months ago, like, that became quickly extremely popular, at least among the people I know, called Cherrymagic, that starred these two as the main leads, but they've both been in many other things as well. Though, don't worry, we will also talk about Cherrymagic. Don't worry, like, we'll get there. But we want to talk about these two actors because we have seen a few other things that they've been in, and they've got quite a varied little background, and we just wanted to have some fun, chat about some actors that we've enjoyed watching. Akaso Eiji? Was I close? Anyway.
Eiji.
Eiji, I'll get it. We have a whole episode about another show that he starred in that we love. So we talked about that podcast, that in a podcast episode, a special episode, I think about a year ago.
Yeah.
And then, he came back around in a completely new role for this one. So we were like, hey, why not? Let's have some fun.
We like this kid. Let's talk about him. Let's watch more.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Machida Keita, who played, if you're wondering, which one is he? He played Kurosawa in Cherrymagic. So the one who didn't have magical powers. The regular dude.
He had the magical powers of being a super good dude.
Being a super good, handsome dude with a really nice smile.
I mean, they both have really nice smiles.
They
so
really
both
do.
doesn't
really
narrow
do.
it down.
They're both the taller one.
Taller one.
I've been watching a lot of like J-dramas the last few weeks, like not just for this, but just outside of this as well. And it's really struck me that like they are actually very attractive men. Like a lot of times in J-dramas, the guys in them, the actors, are not necessarily what you would consider traditionally handsome, or like they usually grow on me by the end of the drama. Like I start out kind of like, oh yeah, he's all right, like average person looking, but like the guys in Cherrymagic are not that like average person good looking. They're like handsome. They start out pretty handsome right from the get-go.
And they get even more, and they get more handsome as it goes on.
The nicer they are, the more handsome I find them.
So I will preface this as like, I'm really good at like reading Japanese names. I'm not reading it out loud. I'm not going to get anything correctly. I'm sorry. And I just want to make that very clear before I start going into stuff. But also I thought that we should probably like talk a little bit more about kind of the background of these people in terms of before we start diving into some of the filmography and especially what we watched and what we liked. We'll start with like Machida's bio, and it's like pulled from MDL, which they pulled from Wikipedia, to kind of give a background of him. Machida was a member of the group Exile, which is a very famous, very big, very multi-membered, multi-unit entertainment group. And in 2011 is when he kind of like made his name in the entertainment system, when he auditioned and got into their unit, the Gaikiden. I don't know much about Exile, and specifically with his unit, there's not a lot out there that I could find that was like translated as that. I don't know if any of you found out about it, but what I'm assuming per what I've read, that group is the actual acting troupe of the Exile world. So he kind of first went into it as an actor, and it was like mostly for stage shows, but also that group can always be pulled in to do like concerts and that sort of thing. So he still had to do, you know, dancing and singing and that sort of thing. And he actually ended up being announced a candidate for Exile Tribe, which was kind of one of their main groups. But I saw somewhere that he got injured, and so it was like something he couldn't do, and he couldn't keep up with the consistency of the dancing and that sort of thing, because they're a typical K-pop group that does a lot of dancing. So he ended up just going back into the acting side, and I think that's probably preferably where he wanted to be. I would assume, especially going into the group in the kind of more acting route first than anything else. After that, he kind of like focused on more roles and kind of catapulted into kind of more of a like a steady success, I would say. He's done a lot of like main roles, but like not a lot. Like even to this day, he still can be cast in like support or very minor roles. Like he's gaining popularity. I'm not saying he's not popular, but I don't think he's like leading male status per the entertainment world. The hard part about anybody who has any sort of Japanese entertainment knowledge knows this. It's really hard to find things subbed in any respect. In interviews, even in print interviews, like unless you want to like just Google translate it, which means nothing essentially. There's not like in the Korean entertainment world, I can follow like 14 news sites that are translating like stuff and consistently translating stuff, and that's just really not an option with Japanese stuff. So it's like it was hard when I personally was looking for stuff to find anything, especially because they're so popular for cherrymagic right now. The only interviews that are getting subbed are cherrymagic interviews, and they say nothing about them. They say all about cherrymagic, which is not what I was going for. So that's kind of where like I had a harder time with the like both of them, was that I was just not finding a lot about them.
The only thing that I did see about him was in high school, he was in a dance troupe and stuff, and he really enjoyed dancing at that time. So... And I actually saw a little clip of him dancing. He was really good.
I saw a clip of him in like a production, and he was very talented.
From what I can tell, it's like he definitely like had the chops to be in the group. He just you know had some issues, and then it just became a thing that was not going to be a thing his body could tolerate.
I'm just scrolling through all the Exile stuff, and I'm like, oh, Ballistic Boys. I always forget that they're from Exile Tribe, so I like them. They're good.
That group is very, very, very large.
In that group, but you know,
massive.
Like it's a massive group, and still like does things where like you know the older members will come back.
Specifically, and this will relate to his filmography, but so the high and low movies are pretty much like Exile movie, like everyone.
I'm watching those and I'm thinking, like, they're spending an awful lot of time focusing on these, like, background characters. They must be people. And then when you're going through the Exile, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. So it's basically
I see.
See?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's dive into their filmography, because there's a lot. I didn't watch it. I don't think anybody else watched it, but his first role was Roku Danashi Blues, where he was a support role, and that was in 2011. And the first role that I think we should talk about is his 2016 role in Sumika Sumire Machida. You say?
Good. It's so cute.
Oh, my heart. My heart.
Which obviously some of us have watched.
Yes.
It's so cute. Like, and okay, talk about a Nuna romance. Like, holy moly. You know, it's
he doesn't realize he's in a Nuna romance at the beginning.
The basis of this story is it's a 65-year-old woman who's never lived her life. She's spent her life looking after her parents, and then like her parents die and she's got nothing, and a magical demon cat that she rescues from purgatory turns her into a 20-year-old so she can go to college and get laid. And like that's basically it. Like he wants her to be happy.
They didn't say get laid. It was more like find love.
Yeah, more, enjoy your youth that you didn't get to enjoy. I mean,
in the very beginning, she does actually meet Machida Keita's character when she's an old woman on a bus, and and that's one of her thoughts is like, why am I even looking at this cute boy? Like, you're 65 years old and you've never even like had sex. Your life is wasted. And, stop looking at cute boys. And then she meets the cute boy in college when she's 20.
And he's not only
clearly
cute,
into old souls.
Very, very kind as well, and loves her retro fashion.
It's a really so weird, fun little drama. It's so cute. If you're a cherrymagic fan, you'll probably enjoy this one.
Yes,
it's a very similar vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. Very similar.
Nice people falling in love under weird magical circumstances. When I first started it, I was like, okay, so like cherry magic, Sumika Sumire, handshake, using magic to fall in love with Machida Keita.
I think another similarity would be the character that plays opposite Machida Keita's character slowly kind of develops into their own self a little bit more, and how that, that was kind of a part of Cherry Magic as well, kind of finding himself a little bit. So I would say I only watched the first episode, but even within that, I could tell that was an aspect of the show.
Yeah, it definitely, there's a great line at one point when the demon, like, I think it's even in the first or second episode, and like the demon cat like looks at her and he's like, you're a 65-year-old woman. You are a master. Like, just go out there and like be confident. You have life experience. Yeah. Don't let these children like bully you. Get back out there. And she's like, I will. Away she goes, and it's a delight.
So next we're gonna actually jump back to 2015 and talk about some of his movie roles, since we have, between the four of us, watched a couple of his movie roles. The first one I think we should talk about, or I will talk about, because I don't think anybody else has watched it on this podcast except for me, is Geki Jorai, which is Ghost Theater. It is a horror film. It is kind of terrible. I did, if you watched or listened to our horror episode, I did talk about the TV series that's based on this, which is like, it's loosely based on it. It really actually kind of means nothing in terms of the two of them. Like, honestly, you could watch either one of them and not be spoiled to anything. They're just kind of, I don't know, it's a catalyst for the other one. But essentially it's about this girl who is not getting, she's an actress and she's not getting a lot of roles, so her management gets her to audition for this play that another girl at her company, who's like the main star, is also working on. Things start happening, people start dying. It's a mess. It's a mess. But if you're kind of looking for like a horror thing, Machida actually plays kind of like a support role that like is in it fairly often. He's kind of like I don't know, it's very weird. It's also very hard. It's me watching some show about theater where they do nothing that actually happens in theater. But he's like this like go-to boy. Like it's basically, I would essentially like they were treating his character like maybe like a grip, like in the film world, which would not be anything that like what he was doing in the theater. But like he was kind of like always there. He was always like maybe working on like the mannequin that they had that they were like chopping the head off of, or like going around cleaning something, or doing this or doing that. And it was just kind of this weird role, but like he's in it for a good bit of it, like especially because he kind of develops a relationship of some sort with the main female. It's a movie.
So would you recommend it?
No, I'm a horror person. Yeah. But I mean, like, I guess if you're wanting to watch, and I'm a love Japanese horror person too. So like, Whatever. Then we're gonna go back to 2016. To Road to High and Low, which we kind of talked about a little bit, but this is the Exile movie, which has multiple iterations. There's multiple sequels and actual TV series. I don't think anybody is watching a TV series, right?
I don't think the TV series is on Netflix, but all these movies are on Netflix.
Yeah, which I enjoyed Road to High Low way more than I thought I was going to. Like, when it started, I was like, oh, this is going to be really depressing. And then they were fighting, and it was like, ooh, this is a really good fight scene. Like, there's a lot of really good fight scenes, and like, there's more plot than I expected. Like, it's a good story. Like, I really enjoyed it, and I was sort of like, oh, I'll watch this one, and then maybe I'll check out the others, but I have time to check the other ones out since watching this one, but I'm like, they're totally on my list. I'm totally going to watch the other ones because I really enjoyed it, like, a lot.
So I watched bits of The Road to High and Low, the movie, and The Road to High, just High and Low, the movie, and then High and Low 2, End of Sky. I watched bits of it just because I was trying to get a feel for like what it entailed, and I watched some of the fight scenes and stuff. Also, some of the acting in between was, it was always like angsty and good.
Yeah.
Like, there was some good stuff there. I will say, just because this is something that I personally feel strongly about, a person that I avoid watching is a part of High and Low, the movie, and at least clips are then a part of the beginning of High and Low 2, End of Sky. It's Sungri from Big Bang in the Past, with all of his scandals and everything horrific that he's done. I'm not into seeing him, and I was not expecting him to show up when I was watching a Japanese action movie.
He's in the very, very end of Road to High and Low also, but it's sort of it's like previews almost of what's to come in the next movie. So if you watch The Road to High and Low and you don't want to see him, there's a very natural, obvious end to the movie, and then it goes into this sort of like preview thing. Just skip the preview thing, and then you're fine. It's all good. You don't need the previews, so especially if you're not planning on watching the next movie.
And I will say, as far as what I could tell about the plot structure of High and Low, the movie, and then 2 and 3, they're all very, very related. And what I mean by that is I feel like you're not really going to get to the conclusion until you get to the end of the third movie, is what it felt like to me based on how things were unfolding. So that's just my opinion. But if you're into fight scenes, and I will say that Machida Keita, he has definitely a support role. He is not one of the leaders of the groups, but he's like maybe a third-hand man.
Yeah.
Like, so you do see him, and he gets speaking parts.
And it's a different role. Like, it's a very different role from, like, cherrymagic or Sumika Sumire. Like, it's different. He does different stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
So, and it's
range.
In case you're wondering which group he's in, man, I'm gonna try to remember. Is it the Hoodlums group?
He's I've only watched the Road to. He's not technically in any of the groups in the Road to, but his best friends run the Hoodlums, I think.
Well, you mostly see him with the Hoodlums group.
Yeah.
Is what because the movie always moves between all of these different fighting groups, and that's why I'm trying to say which group he's in, because it's pretty obvious, like, when you're going to see him on screen and when you're not going to see him on screen.
Which I kind of really enjoyed. Like, in the Road to High and Low, they sort of do that same thing. It's like, it's a gang made up of gangs, and it's called Sword, and each of the 5 gangs starts with the different letter of the word sword. And I really kind of enjoyed that. Like, the different gangs were so different, and it was neat. It was fun to watch. I don't know. Kind of very, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
To me, it felt comic book action-y.
Especially when they first introduced the new gangs. Like, you're dealing with this gang, and then they introduce the next gang, and it's like, they do like a freeze frame with the character's name, you know, for everybody, and you're like, that feels like a comic book.
I had forgotten, because I went pretty deep researching this stuff. I feel like it started as a manga. I'm going to go recheck myself, because it's not just movies and then a drama. Like there's a lot to the universe of High and Low. Yeah, so it's an entertainment project that consists of music, live tours, SNS accounts, mobile games. There's definitely a big mobile game aspect to a lot of it. I remember some of the marketing that I ran across. Books, manga, anime, all types of stuff. So it's a big deal.
And I think there's like 5 or 6 of the movies are on Netflix. Like there's a lot there. I think Machida Keita's only in 3 or 4 of them. So there's a couple that he's not actually in. But
two of them are more focused on a couple of the other gangs. So yeah, he's not in those.
And he's also in a couple of the seasons of the TV show.
Of the drama.
Yeah.
If you're curious where to start, I read like someone who had reviewed all of the movies since they were on Netflix, and you can definitely start with Road to High and Low, but Road to High and Low is kind of the summary of the drama, they said, in a way. So you can start there. You don't have to, though. You can start with High and Low, the movie. You can start there too. Either basis is totally fine. You won't be lost.
So now we're jumping to 2018 to a TV series that a couple of us got to watch. I sadly didn't get to watch it before we recorded this episode, and it's a little drama called Joshi-teki Seikatsu. It's also known as Life as a Girl, because I figure that, like, I'm butchering these Japanese names, I might as well tell you their English equivalent. I think maybe a lot of people who had watched cherrymagic might be into this drama per se. I don't know.
I would highly recommend it. Actually, it has to do with the main character is a trans woman, and it's actually an extremely good portrayal of the things that she deals with. And Machida Keita's character is her high school classmate, and then needs favors from her in present day stuff as an adult. And it's great. It is, I guess, a spoiler, but like there's not a romantic relationship between the two of them. They don't go there. It's they're friends the entire 4 episodes. So that was great too. I loved close friends supporting each other, and Machida Keita's character, he's in it a lot, every single episode, and you can tell in the beginning he's ignorant of the struggles that she would be dealing with, but is immediately kind of not curious in a weird way, but trying to understand. The trans woman character is very good at, though she would explain things, she also would not just hand them to him. She'd be like, if she mentioned a term that he wouldn't understand, she'd be like, go look it up. Because trying to teach him to figure it out for himself if he cared type thing. And it's not always just them. So he pretty much has been screwed over by his ex-girlfriend, and he's in debt, and he doesn't have any money, so he needs somewhere to stay. So he tried to find his old high school buddy. And so pretty much they're just roommates. And from there, you just kind of see the trans woman character with her work stuff. And sometimes there's aspects of, they need help with a website thing, so that's what he does. So for a little bit, he'll go work at her fashion business or whatever. But you definitely see the trans woman character off doing things on her own a lot, because she's really the main character. I'm not saying there aren't like literally any missteps, because obviously I'm not trans myself, but I thought it was a really good portrayal, and I didn't see any major missteps that are often in a lot of these media portrayals of things. I thought it was great. And that wasn't even the one trans character. There was another one who they're friends, and it was her ex-roommate, because they had lived together to support each other during all those things. I thought it was magnificent. So I highly recommend it. And sorry if I took over. I know you guys, some of you guys probably watched it too.
No, I remember a few, like when it came out, one of my Twitter mutuals who is LGBTQ, I don't know if they're trans or not, but they really liked it, that they were really happy with the portrayal as well, watching it. So that's, take that as you may, but it looks good. I know I love the actor who plays the trans woman too.
It seemed incredibly nuanced, and Machida Keita did a great job at his character, who he's kind of a goofy, really innocent type friend who he's just always trying to be nice, but he's kind of just doesn't think very hard. And pairing that up with a trans woman character who, of course, has been through a lot in her life already, and kind of sarcastic, and didn't want to spoon feed her friend all of this information, and seeing him slowly understand more. And then by the end of the show, it was very much like I would put my life on the line for her type thing. And it was just really good. And I thought it was a really good friendship story too. That's why it would be great. Yeah. It would be great if it was on Netflix type thing, to where it'd be really good. But
you can request it. Everybody go request it. If you're
everybody
right now, go to Netflix and request it.
Because if you haven't noticed this one thing about Netflix on how they pick their dramas, unless they have an exclusive deal with an actual company, they pick it based on the actors involved. So if they've already had an actor on the platform, chances are you're going to keep on seeing that actor on the platform multiple times. Yeah. So as we're going to talk about in a little bit, he's on that platform now. So
yes, he is. Definitely. Yes, he is.
And they're probably kicking themselves that they didn't get cherrymagic. So,
Yeah.
Maybe they could someday.
Well, I don't know. I
don't think
Crunchyroll beat them to it.
Crunchyroll has this grasp
Crunchyroll
on it.
was like, oh, no. We got our finger on the pulse of the people.
I just really liked it. The whole time I was like, oh, this is one of my favorite shows. That's and it was short.
Nice.
Yay! And I was really trying to trust, because after I watched 2 episodes one week, and the next week I watched another 2. And since I had experience with them handling things very well, the first 2 episodes, I kind of relaxed a bit for the other 2, not expecting any missteps. And then of course it continued to not have missteps with that.
That's nice.
I guess it is not flawless. They do talk about depression a little bit, and they don't delve into it a lot. I think they probably misstepped a little bit with how they discussed it, because a lot of the characters didn't understand it since they didn't have it themselves type thing. But it wasn't very bad by any means. It's just something that, they didn't pay quite enough attention to.
Netflix, get it.
Netflix, please. We'll go over quickly to other dramas before we talk about the Netflix drama where you can actually access a role that he's done. And there are 2 that I know that I'm probably the only one who actually watched them. So I'll just go quickly. I do think especially this one specifically, it's the 2019 it's a drama special, I guess, called Parallel Tokyo. He is barely in it. I'm just gonna tell you straight up, but the whole thing is 4 episodes, 30 minutes a piece, so it's not that long. It's a movie length. Was a very interesting drama. It is set in a newsroom just after a huge earthquake has happened, and it's literally just what goes down in the newsroom while this is happening and this disaster is happening. And so there's just a bunch of things happening, and it's very heightened, and it's kind of got that heightened thriller aspect of it, just because this is a news room that is telling the public about the earthquake, but also they're just as much not in the know as everyone else, and they're getting things breaking, and it hundreds of people have died, and they keep on dying. There's explosions, and it deals with everything that goes on behind the scenes in a newsroom, and how they judge things, how they judge the safety of people going out into the field during these types of situations, the real possibility of wrong news that could lead to more people being hurt trusting social media and how there's times when it could be right, and then there's times that they literally see something that like is directly affected to more people dying because of a social media post. And it's really good. It was short and easy to watch, but I thought it was just like a really interesting thing because it's like literally from the first second of the show starting, it's all hell has broken loose and this major earthquake has happened. The next one is a 2020 drama. I only watched the first 2 episodes of it. It's called Guilty Kono Koi wa Tsumi Desuka. And I know there are going to be people on this podcast that won't even like it too, so that I'm sure there's a lot of people who won't. It deals with infidelity. It's a melodrama. His character, he actually does play one of the main characters in this one. The show is set like it focuses on the main like female lead, but they were high school like sweethearts and they split apart and they kind of like meet up together later in life and things happen. So it is also not very accessible. So I mean, if you want, I thought it was really good. I do think I'll probably keep continuing watching it, but like in terms of like time for things that I had to watch, I just didn't get that very far. Our next 2, we'll talk about cherrymagic a little bit later, but the most recent drama that I'm sure a lot of people actually like now kind of know Machida in is the Japanese drama that just came out at the end of last year, and that is Alice in Borderland, which is a thriller. I likened it to a battle royale plus escape rooms. And that's it. He's a support character. He's not actually one of the main characters. His character is actually one of the friends of the main character. And they kind of, the central plot line of the story is that they like magically get shoved into this parallel where Tokyo is gone and they're forced into doing these survival games where people just die left and right, and you can die, and it's just like survival of the fittest and survival of the wettest, and they have to constantly be doing these different games, and there's like a greater thing that unfolds throughout the episodes. But it is on Netflix. It was like one of the bigger Netflix. I know a lot of people have been talking about it, so they probably know. He does have blonde hair in this, so you might not catch it like full on, because he's got like bleach blonde. He's the like stoner, not really doing anything with his life character like, in the show. In terms of like comparisons to his other works, is completely different character than his other works. I feel like a lot of his other works are kind of closer into the same kind of thing. Like he still has that essential like him quality.
Like even High and Low, like you could almost see it. It's like the character is the character that he plays in like Sumika Sumire or cherrymagic, but like if really bad things happened in his life and he went down a different road, like
he kind of definitely lends himself into like the romance work drama side of the entertainment world.
He has
so this is
he has a face for romantic leads, shall we say.
Yes.
And does it very well. But he also does this very well. He was the show. Okay, listen, I know two members of this podcast that would not enjoy.
I saw part of the first episode.
The show.
I knew what I was getting
literally
into.
Came out like half my Twitter feed was Amanda, don't watch this, and I was like, okay, all right,
fine. No, I'm about halfway through the show, and I really enjoy it. But if you're not a fan of the old a couple jump scares,
battle royale type.
I mean, like people die in horrific ways and different ways too. And you see it happen. So there's no like.
If you have a weak stomach, not for you.
And it's a thriller. It's supposed to be that, and so it's got that heightened stuff.
There was a lot of you guys mentioning that he looks different and is a different character. I just remember it coming out and seeing a lot of tweets of, hang on. Wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Like people doing double takes when he came on, like they watched for a bit before they made that connection because they just were not expecting it.
It's like, wow, this like guy looks like weirdly familiar, and I can't really figure out why. Where have I seen him before?
Well, I think it's also because he's got like, he has the build. He's a very great looking guy, but like he has that kind of build of like kind of like the everyday worker kind of build, and he does look his age, or he can look even older than that, because he just kind of like he almost comes off with a little bit more maturity than like he has, or I don't know him personally, so but like, so I think that's like what was interesting about this role was that like the way that he's stylized and the way that he comes off in his acting, he seems younger, and I'm assuming he's supposed to be younger too, because the kid who plays the main lead is quite a bit younger than him, so I'm assuming that like he was supposed to be closer to that kid's age. Not that it matters or like actually cares. There's nothing that it cares about in this terms of the story, but it's definitely like, if I had done things differently, you could have just seen him and Alice in Borderland and pick one of his other shows that weren't Cherry Magic, and I think like that's a really good kind of good representation of him as an actor and his duality. And seeing a different
range.
Yeah, it's always nice to see an actor do something totally different from what you've seen them in before, because it gives you that opportunity to go, like, oh, they're actually a good actor, right? They're not just, oh, he's a really nice guy and he plays a lot of nice guys and he's just, you know, good at playing nice guys. And then you see them do something, maybe, I don't know, maybe this character is also a nice guy, just a totally different kind of nice guy. But like, you see them in something totally different, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So now I know this person actually is a great actor. Like they're good. I like it.
Though you wouldn't like this show, Amanda. I'm going to echo all of that.
I have been warned.
And let you know.
It's not just like environmental or people who are controlling the games killing you. It's other people, you know, contestants killing each other.
That's what I don't
like.
Do
It
well
literally,
with
if
person
you
on person
battle royale is literally the best. If you've seen that, then you know what you're getting into. It just is probably not as gory as it's not as gory as Battle Royale, but it's the same heightened. So does anybody else have any like thoughts besides Sean's Cherry Magic, which we'll push over about Machida and him before we go into the other?
I can't remember what it was from. I just remember when we were watching Cherry Magic that somebody linked a really cheesy YouTube video. And I'm sure when I was going through, looking at his stuff, I was like, oh, I bet that's what that was from, but now I can't remember what it was. But like, he's like a teacher, I think, at a girls' school or something, and it was just a really big, like, kind of a goofy dance number. It looked like a commercial. I don't know, but it was very cheesy and goofy and smiley and dancey, and he's just fun to watch. I enjoy it. I wish more of his stuff was available.
So let's move on to Akaso Eiji. A little bit of background about him. He first kind of came into the entertainment system really because of his model work, where he was a model for a while. And then in 2010, he joined an idol group called Boys and Men and started working with them for a couple years and then dropped out. And then in 2013 is when he won a big prize as a model. And that's kind of when he really shifted into deciding to do model and acting work, and dropped out of college and moved to Tokyo and has been doing stuff ever since. He is actually a lot younger than Machida. He's not 30. Is he? He's like 25, 24. So he's a lot younger than his Cherry Magic role as well. So he has been doing some work. He's just not as prolific as Machida has. So there's kind of a less amount to talk about, but we will try our best to talk about the things that we can. First, I know I watched it, but I watched it a very long time ago. He wasn't in the first episode of Frankenstein no Koi. It is available on Viki. He's in one episode. That's it. So not really like a sense of him as an actor or a sense of him as like, you know, anything in terms of a role. Next, in 2017, he was in Kamen Rider Build, which Kamen Rider is a huge franchise, which would be kind of comparable to High and Low. Huge franchise of a bunch of different things: manga, anime, video games. It's a huge thing. He's actually been in a lot of the Kamen Rider things, and I think that might be what he is most known for. But like for that age group, you know, or like anime. I would assume if like you're an anime person, you probably know him because of that. But like someone who would be like watching like cherrymagic, I don't think that they were kind of his audience essentially. Nothing bad with that, just, you know, different audience.
And sadly, as far as I could tell, Kamen Rider Build, you know, it's not on Netflix. If you go searching on Netflix, it'll offer up Power Rangers, which I guess would be an interesting cousin, really, once you get down to it.
I mean, like, honestly, if you're like trying to like really like kind of narrow in on the aesthetic of Kamen Rider.
Power Rangers would be
Kamen Rider Build is like Power Rangers, but even one level more campy. Like, no, they're campy. Like they know they're campy, kind of. But yeah, the costumed bad critters and stuff, definitely.
I always find shows like that like bizarrely nostalgic though, like because it reminds me of like the stuff that I used to like when I was like 9 years old that my mom hated that I watched, you know, because my mom's like a big pacifist. She's like, people punching things, like why can't we be friends with the aliens, like that sort of thing. And I just, you know, I just love stuff like that.
I wanted to spend more time on it than I did, but I still watched a handful of episodes. They're short, they're like 20 minutes. And I want to explain Kamen Rider Build for a second because it's fun. So Kamen Rider Build, and I do not know its relation to like Kamen Rider as a character on the other shows. I just saw it in seclusion of everything else, so let me preface that. Kamen Rider Build, it seems that I'm not going to go to the backstory of all the lore because like we don't really care, but the main first superhero guy is not like Akaso Eiji. It's another fella, and he is like a scientist type, a little bit kind of silly. And what happens is the bad dudes are called Smash just because they are, and that's what they say. It's not subtitled that way. I think they even say the word Smash. When he comes across a bad guy who is actually a normal person transformed into a bad critter, he already has some good fighting moves, but what happens is he has these little canisters that look like kind of small energy drinks. They aren't energy drinks, but that's like the size of them. And he stands there and he shakes them as if they were cans of paint. It's like, and he has to shake them a lot for some reason. But he's always like kind of smirky or like making a joke whenever he's like shaking, or he'll fight a little bit even as he's shaking these little canisters. And then he kind of clicks them to the side, and then he installs them into this large plastic looking belt thing. And when he does that, the narrator is like gorilla diamond in English, like gorilla diamond, and then there's a little crank on it, and he cranks it, and when that happens, there's the CGI frame that gets assembled around him, kind of as if it's kind of a plastic mold maker type thing, and then it goes around and it makes his suit to match to the gorilla diamond thing, to where one side of the eyeballs of the suit will be like diamond looking and the other side will have like something that symbolizes the gorilla.
Incredible.
And then the things that he can then do will reflect, like, so since it's diamond, like it'll be indestructible or something. And then at some juncture during all this, the narrator then goes, yeah, like really loud and long. It's awesome, guys.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
And-
I'm going on Netflix
and-
and requesting this too because my 9-year-old would
like,
love
this is what we want.
I'm like shocked it's not on Netflix
I know,
in
this
some
is
respects.
what
Should be.
Because just him alone in movies, in Kamen Rider, he's in 5 of them between 2017
Yeah.
and 2019. Like, that's just the movie side.
my
We're
God.
like talking about the drama side of this too. All the same character too. It's not like he's like coming back
Yeah.
as different characters.
All right, so we now have a mission for everyone listening to this to go to Netflix and request Kamen Rider build because we all want to be a part of this. It kind of reminds me of how when I was younger and watching Sailor Moon and like she would that long like transformation sequence, and I was always sitting there like, why wouldn't the bad guy just like punch her right in the middle of it? Like, and this, every time someone mentions one of those, I'm always like, why wouldn't they just punch him?
So
Like,
there's 2 more aspects of all this that I wanted to explain.
Okay.
Also, he has
Okay.
a motorcycle, which I'm sure is kind of the rider side
Yeah.
of things.
For sure.
But
mhm.
his smartphone is the thing that can transform into his motorcycle. He pretty much throws his smartphone and it becomes his motorcycle.
That's amazing. That would be so good.
Then, okay, the way his little energy can shaker things work is whenever he beats up a smash person and knocks them out, he then has kind of an empty canister thing and he clicks it and it takes all the smash particles or whatever away from it and then it leaves the normal person. And so then he takes that stuff and he doesn't know what special thing it is yet. And he takes it to his lab and he has this great big machine that he is so very proud of. And he praises this, he's just so goofy. He praises this machine all the time that he made, which is a large closet looking thing with a microwave in it and a door. So there's this character who's a girl and she's really funny and like not really putting up with his crap. She's the one that has the ability to transform this stuff that he puts into the microwave into something that he can use for his suits. So he puts it in the microwave, she goes in there, uses her abilities to transform the thing, and then it popped, like it rings at some point, and he's so excited to see what ability he's gonna get, and he's praising his machine, and she's always like, I'm the one that did it. She's so funny. So that's the backstory of this show. Well, not really backstory, but that's what's going on.
Incredible.
Then,
Incredible.
So the fellow that we're talking about, his role in it, he is on the run. He's a fugitive. He's a martial artist who they say killed somebody. He was framed. But you don't know that right off the bat. So it looks like he's just this scary, which is so funny to see him as a quote unquote scary martial artist beating people up and you think he's killed somebody. Somehow he's putting off some signals that they know, he might turn into a smash person. So the Kamen Rider guy goes to him to hunts him down. And then they have this yelling thing, and his character is very yelly, he's angry. It's fascinating to see him in that type of role. It's all silly, but it's actually really good, guys. Everyone should watch.
It sounds
I mean,
really fun.
I knew it was big before this even happened. I didn't know he was in it or anything like that, but it's a massive thing. But also kind of all those mecha dramas and animes are really big in Japan too. I will say that there are if you do go searching, there are a lot of clips that are subbed from the Kamen Rider series, multiple you can never track it. It's a minute of their favorite part, and there's some really great it's I guess it's great watching it as someone who did grow up watching Power Rangers and stuff, because there's this really great Power Rangers level in how the shows are done. And I mean when Power Rangers first came to be. So it's got that very classic 90s people who are in their 20s playing teens type action show, and I was
and not even 21 playing a 19-year-old. No, they're 26 playing a 15-year-old, and you're just okay.
But it has that kind of goofy comedy.
Oh god, that brings me back.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I really recommend it. Again, I keep recommending things that are like off wherever you can't find
I
them.
mean, that's
Listen, if all goes
happen
to
if we're
plan and
talking
we
about
all go,
Japan.
Yeah.
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 And if everything goes to plan, if we all go out and we all request this, like we just do a wave of requesting for Kamen Rider build, who knows? Netflix would be like, damn, there's like a huge bunch of these random, like, we just got like 100 requests for Kamen Rider build. Like, okay.
I mean, it's very much the thing that if it was on Netflix, it would be a great thing to like watch together and talk about, because it's just fun. Like, it's the type of thing you would put on and like have lunch and just watch a few episodes, and it's a good time. He does a good job too. So it was fun seeing him be angry martial artist, because that is not his typical soft role.
Puppy, essentially.
Such a puppy.
No, yeah.
In 2019, he was in a drama, like kind of a support role. I only watched the first episode of it. It's called Watashi, Danna o Shiteta, also known as I Shared My Husband. And I do feel like there is someone who listens to us that actually probably would really like this drama. That sadly was not me. But I sat through the first episode, saw him work. I mean, listen, I tried really hard. A lot of his stuff is not available and not something. And I was really trying to get a grasp. I didn't want just Nee Sensei and cherrymagic to be my only feel of him as an actor. The show is about 3 women who are in common law marriages with the same person, and they don't know it until they all are called because he has been he's dying because he's been murdered, and they all find out while he's dying that they all share him, essentially. So they all didn't know. And they all have various connection with him. Some have been like with him for longer. I think there is one that actually had kids with him. Others had already had kids. I do think it's like a very interesting kind of plot, because all 3 of the female leads are drastically different in their type of personalities and also their age. So you have a younger wife and an older one, and they like some of them had like been married, and they like some of them are single with a kid, and the kids are all at different ages too. So that kind of aspect of it was like interesting. But it's very much like a soap opera mahjong, essentially. The reason I picked it is because crime is in the tag, and it lured me in. And really, I mean, like, there is an investigation into this whole thing.
You got.
I got. And like, because he gets murdered.
You got.
Spoiler, but really not spoiler. Because it's in the first 10 minutes of it. The crew that like do the mission includes our Akaso Eiji. So that's how he's in it, but he feels remorse, and he's like the young kid who kind of like, I assume, because I haven't seen more than the first episode, he's kind of like was forced into do this deed. And the premise of the show essentially is like it seems a lot darker than it is. It's not. It's really like a kind of a lighter show. But it like the 3 meet up, and then they find out that in his will he has this like share house for them to live in for a certain amount of time, and at the end I think one becomes essentially the winner. It seems really messed up, but I know there's like a person who really loves these mahjong-y type things with like some weird crime element to it. That, I mean, like there are police officers like looking into the crime, and they're, you know, interviewing the group, but it was a show.
It happened. He made his paycheck.
Yeah. The one who I think might be the lead female, because it's the one they start off with, and she, I think, is the one that's been with him the longest. She has an older daughter from a previous marriage, and the daughter, and she's like probably, I don't know, middle school or young high school age. She's like, he's such a creep. Why did he do this? He's such a trash. Like, he just keeps on going off on this like person. And I it does kind of touch on it. All of them just like assumed he was on business trips because he just said he was on business trips a lot. But he was also very good with everyone. Like when they are like kind of like reminiscing about him, it's always because he's done something very kind or thoughtful or to their children. So like, you know, like one kid was having an issue or like at school or something, and he like talked to him very calmly and like got him to feel better about things and like took him to go get a snack or something, you know. So it's like you could see what like why, but like then it goes from 0 to 500 in 0.3 seconds. So it's not a Jesse drama, but I did one for the team and watched him, and he was he was a puppy dog young kid who got tied up into the wrong group or like had to pay off some debt. I don't know, I'm sure it tells you in the series, but
like it's not his fault that he has just a sweet, kind looking face. Like he just
it's because his eyes, he has those eyes.
Yeah, he has these eyes that look at you like if you said anything mean to him, he would cry. Like, and you're just like, oh no.
And they're set in a very handsome face, so it's
And so we don't really have to talk about this one because we already talked about it in a full episode. But in 2019, which is like the reason I know him. Because I started watching this drama and then I was like, hey guys, I think you guys all really like this, because this is definitely not a Jessie drama per se, but it kind of is. And it's Nee Sensei. It's just a sweet little romance. It has very little comedy, which is my real reason about rom-coms, is the comedy. I don't like people getting to their romance because of comedy. Like, I want it to be sincere, and that show has a very sincere. It is close to cherrymagic in terms of the audience for it, essentially. He plays the Machida role, essentially.
Pretty much. He's the suave, experienced hairdresser who's also very kind and role reversal and isn't.
It's a low stakes, very sweet, short episode drama. It's just, if you're looking for something that's not really like a lot of like high stakes on it and just like something that's really nice and calming, I think Nee Sensei.
You can watch it in an afternoon.
Drama.
You can watch it in an afternoon. There's only a couple episodes.
And you can watch it on Viki. It's there.
Yep.
That's right.
I may have rewatched it for the third time, just to catch up.
I also may have as well. Just be like, you know what I miss? Nee Sensei. Let's just.
Watching it again made me once again want to knit that stupid scarf that he wears all the time. So I've got to sit down and figure that out.
The feeling of Nee Sensei, it's like, how there's the soap opera lighting when everything looks really soft. So I'm not saying it's a soap opera show. 'Tis not.
No.
It's just, that's the feeling I get. That type of
warmth,
and cherrymagic tries to go that direction too, as far as like warmth and softness, kind of. That's all.
So I don't know if anybody else had any more thoughts on him as an actor or saw anything else that I didn't personally talk about.
I tried to find some stuff.
Yeah, it was really hard.
I looked up the one movie, Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken. I would like to watch it. It looks kind of funny. Like, it kind of looks like it's sort of a schoolgirl detectives kind of a craziness. I think he maybe plays their driver bodyguard or something. I don't know. On YouTube there was a 10-minute clip that sort of chopped the whole movie into 10 minutes, and there was one scene where the girls waved to their bodyguard driver who was way down the mountain, and I think maybe it was him, but I don't know. So that didn't give me a real good picture of his acting in it, but the girls made me laugh, so if I ever find it I might watch it, but
we hope for more things, especially with his popularity.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's a youngin', so
Yeah, he is. He's very young, and if he started really kind of working at 19, he's only been in it for what, 5-6 years. Yeah, so one of them being a year of pandemic. So he's like very, very new to his career.
Yeah, and he's doing good for himself, I would say. Yeah.
Well, and I think Japanese actors, I feel like Japanese men anyway, have a much, like, they have more longevity career-wise than some other countries give, like, it's not like you turn 30 and you're like, okay, now you have to play the dad or something. Like, like, you can only play the seasoned cop now because you're 40 or whatever. Like, sometimes you're watching a drama with a, like, 25-year-old girl and a 25-year-old guy and a 45-year-old guy, and you're not sure which one is the male lead because it's Japanese and it could be either of them, Hey.
I think, also it's to note, in 2020, he has 3 shows listed as him doing guest roles on it. And usually, especially like after you've already done a set amount of stuff and have like been in a lead of something, a guest role is something that you were asked to come onto the show because of your popularity, as opposed to just auditioning for it and ending up on the one episode. And so I feel like that was probably something that like maybe people were kind of like giving him calls, and so he was kind of showing up to. So
it's sort of like when it's sort of like when someone shows up on like Law and Order SVU as like, just like a random side character in one episode, and you're like, hey, that guy. Like, it's that sort of vibe when you cast role.
Okay, so now we are gonna, we've been talking for a long time. We're gonna kind of briefly talk about cherrymagic, because I know that's like what everybody is very into. A very brief synopsis of the show. It's a very short show. Not like a lot goes into it, so it's a very brief synopsis. A kid, Eiji, his character, has turned 30 and he's still a virgin, and somehow magically, once you get to that point, you could start hearing the voices of other people, and that kind of translates into him kind of finding himself and finding like more courage to do what he wants and not to feel like everybody else is after him. I will say, if you're at all weary of watching it because of that synopsis, the fact that he's virgin is not really touched in it at all. So don't worry about them being terrible about that fact. Like, they don't really even mention it at all. It's literally the only reason like it happens is because it's the magic element, and that's it. So if you're very worried, which I was going into it, that they were going to even like kind of like make fun of him or any character in it whatsoever. That's literally a non-point. They could have literally just taken it out and you would have felt no different about this show.
Him being a virgin is more like incidental to his personality than it is like, it's not played up for like laughs, like, oh, look at him, like 30-year-old. It's not like, like the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin. It's not like that at all. Like, it's just sort of like, he is because he has no confidence in himself that he could never put himself out there.
It appears to be an actual like folklore or something in Japan, because if you look it up, there are a few other like movies and dramas and stuff about superhero squads of 30-year-old virgin men and stuff. So I guess it's a myth that they have. I'm not sure why being a 30-year-old virgin would give you magical powers, but hey, cool. I'm wondering, now I'm going to wonder people I meet. Can you read my thoughts?
I will say, I really, really liked the side character girl.
So much.
Favorite character.
She's wonderful. So wonderful.
That was such a beautiful character. Like, I honestly never expected them to do that with her character.
No. And
I kept wanting more of her. Like, yes, give me more.
Yes. I know. I'm like, oh, I would watch a spin-off show just about her, like about her character and her life, and give me more of her. And because not that I disliked cherrymagic or anything about it, I really enjoyed the show. There were some great characters in it, and they could have, and her character especially, you could delve more into that. Would have been great.
Yep.
And I guess it's like this is kind of a spoiler, but like the show's so small, we really can't talk about it without spoiling anything, but it's also kind of a romantic, not really comedy. I wouldn't say it's a comedy. It's actually a slice of life, if anything.
Mhm.
But she likes Aiji's character, but she has seen that Machida's character likes him, and she just accepts it and thinks it's sweet and just wants the best for him. And so she like literally is like, I'm just gonna make him feel comfortable and them to find themselves together. And that's like her
and like
role.
Be their friend. Like that's
no other stakes. It's just
I really liked how it didn't even spend like a quarter of an episode being like, oh, maybe this like a triangle. No, it was just like she was like, no, I like him, but
it's the first episode
like
she had more
like,
than like a line. And then they were like, oh, he hears her thoughts and that's it. And you're like, did they just do that with that character? Did they just allow a female character to not be trashy? Oh my gosh. Wasn't expecting this.
It's incredible. And then it's like, and I really liked how, though most of the show is told from, you know, his perspective where he's reading people's minds, you actually do get to like, through this, like get real insight into other characters, which I find a lot of these, you know, sorts of shows sometimes, especially one that's so short, they don't really get to. Like you know, you see this, you know, Kurosawa character who's like, oh, I wish I was like him. Like he's so confident, he's so, you know, suave, like everyone loves him. Like I bet he never, you know, had problems like, you know, talking to people or doing whatever he wanted to do. And then you find out that he has like severe confidence issues because he's convinced that nobody likes him except that, you know, except that he's good looking, because everyone only ever talks about how good looking he is and like uses him for his looks at work to like impress lady CEOs and stuff. And it makes him very uncomfortable. And, you know, and then through this, it's sort of like, you know, you find out that like everyone has like more facets than are normally given in these types of shows, and more is spent on like character development to show like these characters are multi-sided, and you know,
it's nice to see a drama about a guy who can suddenly read minds, who doesn't use it to be a douche too. Like often that seems to be the very first, like, ooh, I can hear women's thoughts. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to use it to get laid. Like, and that's not at all what he does with it. He's just like, oh, like this person at work is like suffering. I should do something nice for them so that they'll feel better about themselves. Like he's just nice and uses his powers
like, I need to
niceness.
avoid. He first starts out trying to just avoid everyone because he's like, I don't want this. I don't want to be part of this.
It would be overwhelming.
One thing we didn't mention is in order for him to read somebody's mind, he has to touch them.
Yes, right.
Yes.
So when he's avoiding, he just tries to not touch anyone.
Which
so
is
like
a great
crowded
thing,
elevators.
He could always hear he'd go insane.
Right.
Yeah. I remember that episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I remember.
It's true.
You think it's all fun and games until you can't take anyone out of your mind.
Yeah.
And then there's also a secondary plot, which is not as heartwarming and is more of the comedic half of the show.
I'm sorry, I hated it. It was terrible.
Yeah, with his best friend, who is a romance writer who has never had any experience with romance, who just has a cat and then falls in love with this delivery person from the pet store. To be honest, while it had like a few moments that if you like sort of more rom-com-y stuff, you probably enjoy, if that entire subplot had been cut out of the show, it would have been fine. Like there's no
number of people who have watched it that way, so and quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, so
Cherrymagic. That
the only reason he should have been there was for him to talk about things when in like he only kind of talked about the being able to hear things for a little bit, but it wasn't like his friend was giving him any advice or really caring. Kind of and he already got a better friendship out of the girl and his other coworker.
I liked the kid that played the delivery guy actor. I enjoyed him, and I liked the plot of him being a dancer and like sticking with this dream of his.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I liked that aspect, and the way that it brought in the one of their coworkers from the office used to dance with this kid and like is friends with him. So I liked the way they brought that in and that connection. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the more slapsticky kind of aspect of that relationship.
I think it was more is that
it was hard to watch.
It was more of a genuine relationship between that kid and the coworker than it was him and his love interest. Yeah. And so it was obviously like was a very list, like I got to add it in because I have to have this character type moment as opposed to it being true to
I think
the written word.
Well, it's also like the show is based on a manga. So I think they were like, that is a plot in the manga, but I think in the manga it was done a little more gracefully, shall we say.
Probably the manga's longer too, right? So they
so
condense.
So I think probably they were, it was doing the thing where it's like, well, it's in the manga, so we gotta put it in. But it would have it would have been, the show would have been better without that.
And to be honest, I don't know that actor. It very well could be that the fact that that actor was not the best actor too, so he was bringing down his role.
We don't know because we didn't look into his filmography.
But
this isn't an episode about him.
But it seems like lots of folks like cherrymagic in general.
Yes, I really enjoyed it.
It's the reason we picked these people.
Yeah,
I wanted Dory. I tried for Dory.
Yeah,
we will do Dory sometime.
One day. This just seems so timely because everyone was loving cherrymagic,
And then also, didn't they just announce that like Machida Keita has a new drama starting like next month? I think.
That's right.
Something.
Yeah, it's an office drama, I think.
What a shocker!
Shocker.
Kyogi Kubo.
Yeah, so it starts on February 11th.
Cherrymagic, I think it resonated with a lot of people, especially in this past year, because it had sort of this nice sense of a person who was disconnected from people around him, like finding connection with others. And I think that sort of resonated a lot with people, even if that wasn't quite how they knew how to articulate it, because like I started watching it because it was on Irazuku subs and I was watching something else and they were like, oh look, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And then I started watching, I was like, oh yeah, they're like, this is nice. And then like a bunch of my friends who were really into like Thai BL stuff, they were all like, oh, a new BL drama, but it's not like really a BL drama in the sense of like what most BL dramas are. But there's just like this overwhelming feeling of warmth that the show has, like as these characters progress and like, as the story, it's not like the story is not so much a plot, it's more of a character development style story. That the sense of connection and like the whole point is that this character Adachi was disconnected from himself and others because of it, and then this way that he has through this magic learned that he can connect with others and be more confident, and people want to have a connection with him even though he sort of thought himself under them, and that he felt that he had no worth and that others would agree that he also has no worth. But then through hearing others' thoughts realizes that people are realizing worth in him that he himself didn't even realize he had. And I feel like that's like a really nice message that others can enjoy. It's a very heartwarming little drama that's not like, the romance isn't the point. The connection is the point, like, I don't know if that made sense, but yeah. And I feel like this past year, there's been a lot of, we feel really disconnected. So I think it resonated with a lot of people because like, even if subconsciously, like this idea of needing to connect with others I liked it. I thought it was really sweet. It's on Crunchyroll legally now. So, it's also on WeTV, but not in North America. In North America, you get the Crunchyroll. If you're outside of North America, I think it's on WeTV for a lot of different countries. It's not about finding love, it's about finding yourself. Oh God, I made myself cringe with that one. I'm out.
You're not wrong though, so cringy
Natalia.
but true.
Natalia made herself cringe. All right, sounded like my mom just then. Okay.
So do we have anything else to say about the two actors?
Yes. That upcoming one for Machida Keita, it's a manga adaptation. It looks like it takes place at a cocktail bar.
I just read that and it looks great and it looks like right up my alley.
I know. I'm like, this looks so good. So
It kind of
everybody go request this from Netflix and from Vicky.
Well,
that maybe
as I was reading it, I started Midnight Diner, which is on, all the seasons are on Netflix that I know of, because there's a couple different like spin-off seasons. But it kind of sounds like the same kind of premise to it, where it's just like there's the central bar that people are going to and they talk about their feelings, and all the story revolves inside the walls. Pretty sure it's going to be like more of like a slice of life drama.
Slice of life.
Nobody does slice of life like
I
Japan.
love those things.
Oh
just
no,
like,
yeah.
It's true.
And he can definitely do slice of life,
He
obviously.
can.
With his gentle, kind face and his voice that makes you kind of feel like you're just like, ooh, I feel, I just feel like I could listen to you talk all day. Anyway, I think they're great. I think they're great, and I can't wait to see more of them if Japan will release.
Oh, one thing I wanted to mention about cherrymagic, there was it just one or two spin-off, just little episodes?
Yeah, they're like little special episodes.
Special episodes, yeah.
And are those going to be on Crunchyroll too? Do you guys
I would
know?
assume.
I believe so.
Hope so.
I believe so.
I saw that one was like Valentine's themed.
Yeah. So it's just, they're just sort of, like they're just sort of little short stories out of these people's lives. You know what I mean? Like
more slices of life.
more slices of their lives in the cake that is their lives. Or is it pie? You know what? You choose cake or pie. Make your life delicious and sweet.
Hey.
Whatever you want. So that was our episode about Machida Keita and Akaso Eiji.
Sorry, we know it's our pronunciation is terrible. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm so sorry. We're trying our best. We're just, we're trying our best. We hope that you enjoyed listening to it. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to, boot us up on wherever you're listening to us, be it Spotify, Apple iTunes, or maybe even you went to our website, certifiednoonas.com, where if you want links to everything, they're going to be there, and we have other fun stuff going on. If you want to become an official sponsor of this podcast to keep the lights on, as it were, in this building we call the Certified Noonas home, you can go to ko-fi.com/certifiednoonas to become an official certified found family member. We love everyone who supports us, and we just, we think you're the best. You can reach us on all our socials. We're always at Certified Noonas. You can email us, certifiednoonas@gmail.com. And we love hearing from you, so please hit us up. We're mostly on Twitter, so that's where you can usually find us. Anyway, we hope you have a fun and safe week. And, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay socially distant, and keep watching Asian television. Bye!